But due to, we've, you know, this compressed schedule has really been playing with my ability to get things done. Oh, yeah, the snowstorm, do not curse the committee like that. Nope, it's gonna be sunny and warm, sunny and warm.
8 inches. From the national and from the state, and from the air.
My microphone's on, I can't respond to this. All right. So committee, our revisor is out today, sick. Apparently, she came down with the same stuff that has debilitated most of the House. Because of that, there is an amendment that is been written for HB 2128. We're going to put off working HB 2128 until Wednesday. That was our original plan, was to work that one. But let's put that off until we have her amendment, because apparently it's a relatively important one. Technical fix, but still.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Welcome to committee, Eileen.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
You sound terrible.
Thank you so much. I feel terrible. Yeah, I was going to say I have the amendment prepared if you'd like to go ahead and work it anyways. It's up to you.
I don't see the need. Get some rest. Drink your.
I would love to. Thank you.
Drink your hot tea. Go to bed. Get to work on Wednesday though. We don't have. We don't have this kind of time.
To wait for that.
No. I object.
100%, 8 inches.
And I have a second. All right, there will be no further discussion on that. Very good. All right, also similarly, regarding HB 2244, I had originally planned to hear that today. I've been meeting with, if you look at the agenda, surprisingly, I've been meeting with opponents, seeing as how there are no opponents, or proponents rather, and there have been some valid points made. I want to do a few changes to, I think we're on the right track with 2244, but I want to make a few changes to it before we have a hearing. So I want to put that one off. I'm not going to say until Wednesday, because this one might take a little longer. We might even be doing this one next year, but keep your eyes peeled anyway. We could meet Monday, and if we wanted to hear it on Wednesday, but I don't think I'm going to be finished by then. And anywho, so instead of all that, we're going to, I guess, abbreviate our meeting somewhat today and have a hearing instead on HB 2245. Eileen, are you up to it?
I can do this, Mr. Chair.
All right, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, committee. House Bill 2245, transfers officers, employees, powers, duties, and functions relating to the state healthcare benefits program from the division of the State Employee Health Benefits Plan of the Department of Administration to the Insurance Department, establishing the Commissioner of Insurance as the chairperson of the Kansas State Employees Health Care Commission, and provides that all management functions of such commission be administered by the Commissioner of Insurance, and it also eliminates a pilot program regarding employer contributions for certain children. New Section 1 of the bill transfers all powers, duties, and functions of the state of the division of the State Employee Health Plan of the Department of Administration to the Insurance Department. Section 2 would transfer all officers and employees of the division to the Insurance Department. All classified officers and employees so transferred would retain their status as classified employees. All other transferred officers and employees shall retain their retirement benefits, leave balances, and service would be deemed as being continuous. Section 3 provides that the insurance department shall be a successor to the powers, duties, and functions of the division involving the administration of the state healthcare benefits program. Every act performed in the exercise of such transferred powers, duties, and functions by the insurance department or the commissioner of insurance would be deemed to have the same force and effect as if it were performed by the division or the secretary of administration. Section 4 provides that balances of all funds or accounts appropriated or reappropriated for the division would be transferred within the state treasury to the insurance department. Section 5 provides that the insurance department shall succeed to all property rights, contracts, and records that were used for or pertain to the performance of powers, duties, and functions involving the administration of the state healthcare benefits program, and any conflict there would be resolved by the commissioner of insurance. Section 6 provides that no suit, action, or other proceeding commenced by or against the division or the secretary of administration shall abate by reason of the transfer. The court may allow such suit, action, or proceeding to be maintained against the insurance department or the commissioner of insurance. No criminal action commenced or that could have been commenced by the state shall abate by reason of the transfer. Section 7 amends KSA 75-37, 169 to eliminate references to the division of the state employee health plan. Section 8 amends KSA 75-6502 to make the commissioner of insurance the chairperson of the Kansas State Employees Health Care Commission. Section 9 amends KSA 75-6503 to replace references to the Secretary of Administration with the Commissioner of Insurance relating to budgeting, purchasing, and related management functions of the Kansas State Employees Healthcare Commission. The bill also repeals statutes that were originally part of the Executive Reorganization Order number 45 from 2020 that transferred the powers, duties, and functions of the State Employee Health Benefits Program from the Division of Healthcare Finance of the Department of Health and Administration to the Division of the State Employees Health Benefits Plan of the Department of Administration. And it repeals KSA 75-6506A concerning a plan year 2002 pilot program for certain employer contributions for certain children in the state healthcare benefits program. And Mr. Chair, it's now that I must point out that we need a technical amendment to this bill. If you look at the title and the repealer of the bill, it's missing several statutes, specifically the one that pertains to eliminating a pilot program regarding employer contributions. For some reason, those did not get pulled in by our bill drafting system, but I will have an amendment prepared for when we work the bill. And with that, Mr. Chair, I can stand for questions.
Well, I noticed that those statutes were missing. It was glaringly obvious to me.
Incredibly obvious.
All right, very good. Committee, do we have any questions for the reviser? Be gentle, she's frail today. All right, seeing none. All right, Eileen, take a rest. We'll get back to you in a little bit. I take that as affirmation. Very good. Silence is fine. All right, there are no proponents listed for 2245. I'm going to speak as one, seeing as how I had this one drafted. A little backstory for those folks who weren't here in the past, who weren't here for a long time, or last year. We did run this bill through committee last year, not on the floor. About 6 years ago, when I think it was 6 years ago, I was the chair of general government budget. We did we made a change that was consistent with an efficiency study, and a government efficiency study. Hold your jokes, please. We'll get them later. But it was an A&M recommendation for efficiency, and that was to combine the board or the state employee health plan with the Department of Administration. I think it was with labor before that, but they wanted to move it to the Department of Administration. And the reasoning for that was we're matching employee benefits with the group that administers employee benefits. That made sense. I was the one who drafted that bill too, as a matter of fact. And I supported it, and given what I knew then, I still would probably support that move. And then I learned more. And the issue that has arisen, and is it significant? Only rarely, but it's avoidable. Situation is that the Department of Administration administers benefits perfectly. They do a great job with that, no problem. They've done a good job with this, but they don't have the infrastructure for dealing with customer complaints with the healthcare system themselves. If the insurance company isn't providing the benefits it says that it provides, if they're being denied services, something along these lines, they can do it. They have. They've done a fine job of chasing down problems when we send them problems. But they don't have the structure for doing that internally as it stands. We do have a department that happens to handle insurance inquiries all the time. They have a department set aside for investigating insurance queries. It's called the Insurance Department. So combining an insurance tool, the State Employee Health Plan, in the Insurance Department makes sense because of the existing infrastructures. That's the reason that I'm recommending this bill. Not everyone's going to agree, and I understand that. And I don't have hard feelings towards anyone. I love you, man. But that's the reasoning behind this. There's no animosity. It's certainly not political, since I'm the one who put it in this place to begin with. But it's based on additional knowledge as we've seen the program develop. And that's it. So I'll stand for questions as a proponent testifier, I suppose. Yes, Representative Neighbor.
It's worth noting in the Office of the Secretary that this happened on February 14th, 2020, which is coming up. 25, yes. So it's time for us to address this.
Very good.
And I was there.
You were there.
On government budget.
What a long history we have. All right, committee, further questions? Seeing none, unless there are proponents hiding somewhere out there, I will close proponent testimony, open neutral testimony, if anyone's feeling strongly neutral. Seeing none, I'll close neutral testimony and open opponent testimony. I have listed Adam Profit, but I have Samir here with us. So either one of you can jump to the stage, although I only see one of you.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Let the record state that I love you too. Afternoon, members of the committee. I'm Samir Arif. I'm Chief of Staff of the Department of Administration. Appreciate giving the chance to testify for you guys. Secretary Profit had to get called away for a different meeting, so I'm in his stead. Please be kind to me. I'm not nearly as good as he is. Just really want to call two pieces of our testimony to your attention. I don't want to rehash the things that you've already gotten, but as the chairman mentioned, there is the A&M study that was commissioned back in 2017. Just encourage you guys just to read through it to get a sort of a flavor of what they're trying to put across to us. The first part is the memo from Secretary Profit outlining sort of the reasons that we are in opposition to this bill. Again, I'm not going to read through all of it, but I do want to call attention to some of our bigger concerns. Before I really do that, I want to make sure that we're all clear that I want to recognize the good work of Commissioner Schmidt and her office. They do great work on behalf of Kansans. They're a good friend. I don't want anything in my testimony to be seen as being denigrating their work. They do a great job. That being said, the mission of the insurance department is just fundamentally different from the mission of the state employee health plan. As the chairman mentioned, insurance department is a regulatory agency. We are a service delivery agency. What we do every day is deliver services to employees. It very much fits within our mission. Of course, I already mentioned the Alvarez and Marcel study. Just a couple of years ago, there was a number of reasons that I was moved into the Department of Administration from KDHE. Prior, there was a lot of different ways that we had agreements with these two agents between Department of Administration and KDHE that just made it very, very difficult to operate efficiently. Simply put, we have a hard time seeing how this move would reduce costs for taxpayers or for the health plan or bring down premiums for anybody. Want to be clear that all the policy for the state employee health plan is set by the Healthcare Commission. Of course, Mr. Chairman, you'll be a member of that coming up soon in the next meeting. This office is staffed with career public servants. They have a passion for helping state employees navigate their benefits. Of course, there's a limited amount we can share when there's health-related issues, and so they do really feel very passionately about helping people that come to them with problems. And really my last point, that's something I alluded to a little bit earlier, as a regulatory agency, if enacted, Kansas Insurance Department would be negotiating terms of a contract with the same companies they regulate. Without some sort of way for this bill to contemplate that, there would need to be some sort of separation between the two for that issue. So that's really what I have. I'd really encourage you guys to read Secretary Proffitt's testimony as well as the A&M study, but be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Questions for the entire Department of Administration, right here.
I'll do my best.
Questions? Samir, you got off easy, man. Oh, never mind. Now it starts. Blood in the water. Representative Penn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here today, Samir. When you're talking about the particular impact of this bill, as far as the workload that it presents for your organization versus where it's, being asked to be placed, how do you see that happening? Is it a negative impact? Is there?
It's difficult to say, sir. I'm not, I know about the Department of Administration's operations. I know that we do a pretty good job of managing, like I said, issues that we run into. I do know that we have maybe 25, 30 person staff, I believe. It's a substantial number of staff, and moving across, there's obviously going to be transition costs associated with that. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but.
Oh, no. So there'll be some transition costs that are associated with that. And here's another question for you. Since it's been housed inside of your organization, is there a mechanism by which you all receive feedback from customers, and where can we find that? What is that like?
Yeah, absolutely. The Department of Administration on our website, there's a bunch of information about who you call if you have any issues with your health insurance plan. To the legislature, we've done sometimes done a good job of marketing sort of what number to call if you run into. We do outreach efforts and things like that. Primary place we point people to is the website. Yes, sir.
All right. Further questions? All right. Seeing none.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks for being here.
Appreciate you.
All right. I see no other opponents listed for 2245. If there are more opponents hiding in the audience, now would be a great time to speak up. All right, seeing none, I'll close opponent testimony and close the hearing on HB 2245. Committee, I'll turn your attention then to HB 2246. And Eileen, are you up and running?
I'm still here.
Nice work. Sounds terrible. I feel so bad asking you to talk.
It's okay. This is actually better than I've been, so if that tells you anything. Do you want me to wait until Kate's done passing out the bills, or should I go ahead and start?
Oh, no, they'll read it in their spare time. Fire away.
Okay, House Bill 2246 enacts the Consumer Protection Related to Hospital Price Transparency Act, and it would enact 4 new provisions of law. Section 1 of the bill provides the name and citation to the act and also gives a reference to the term hospital and where the definition can be found in statute. Section 2 is actually where the nuts and bolts kind of reside. Section 2 states that pursuant to 45 CFR Section 180, each hospital operating in the United States is required to provide clear, accessible pricing information online about the items and services that each hospital provides. This section places requirements and specifies how each hospital in Kansas is required to fulfill the federal requirement. Section 3 of the bill states that the Attorney General would have the authority to enforce the provisions of the Act. He's more of a supervisory kind of role. If the Attorney General were to find a hospital that is non-compliant with the provisions of the Act, then the Attorney General would refer information about that hospital's non-compliant status to the United States Department of Health and Human Services for actual enforcement purposes. Now, we had this bill last year where the Attorney General could levy fines and make other enforcement procedures. This being found non-compliant as a hospital would also, that last year made it a deceptive or unfair practice for purposes of statute, which would be civil through the Department of Insurance, but those sections do not appear in this bill now. Section 4 of the bill provides that if a patient believes that a hospital was not in material compliance with this act on the date that items or services were purchased or provided to the patient, then the patient or the patient's guarantor may file a civil suit against the hospital to determine if the hospital was out of compliance with the act or rules and regulations adopted pursuant to the act. And if the finder of fact finds that the hospital was non-compliant with the act or rules or regulations, then the section would also provide for remedies. These remedies include requiring that the hospital refund the payer any amount that the hospital has, any refund to the payer any amount that the payer has paid, plus a penalty equal to that same dollar amount, move to dismiss with prejudice any collection action undertaken and pay any attorney costs incurred by the patient or the patient's guarantor, and cause to be removed from the patient or the patient guarantor's credit rating report any report made to a consumer reporting agency relating to the debt. This section also states that nothing in the act should be construed to prevent a hospital from billing a patient guarantor or third-party payer for items and services purchased by or provided to the patient, or require a hospital to refund any payment made to the hospital by a patient, patient guarantor, or third-party payer for items purchased by or provided to the patient unless the hospital was found to be out of compliance with this act. And Mr. Chair, I can stand for questions.
All right, now I just want to kind of summarize here and make sure that I'm on the right page here. Eileen, are we just basically restating federal law in Kansas law? Is that correct?
Yes, we're basically codifying that the state, hospitals in the state of Kansas have to follow this act.
Which is already federal law.
Correct.
Very good, thank you. Representative Neighbor.
Yes, Eileen, is there, and maybe this would be for the chairman, this is already federal law. The hospitals are already doing this to be a part of a CMA. Why do we need to codify something that's already there? I mean, it is in federal law, not in state law, I do understand. But the rules are there, and in order to be paid and to go by the guidelines, our hospitals are doing this.
And that would be a question more for me than for the reviser, and I'll get to it.
Sorry, Eileen, I misdirected my question.
All right, yes, Representative Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Eileen, you referenced the fact that we had a similar bill last year. And what was the bill number last year that dealt with the same topic? It was what?
I can look it up and get back to you. I don't have it at the top of my fingers right now. I want to say it's like 2258 or something like that.
Research has it right here. She's jumping out of her chair. Hold on.
Committee, Kate Smeltzer with Legislative Research. The bill last year was 34. The amended language in the House Committee on the LI, that language matches mostly the language in this current bill.
Okay. If I may. And so, Eileen, you say this bill is different. You referenced about some of the Attorney General, how they would handle problems. Is that the sum of the difference? That's it? Or what else is different about 2246 versus the 2834?
Just those two pieces. The Attorney General would not have the ability to levy fines on non-compliant hospitals. And a hospital being non-compliant does not constitute an unfair or deceptive practice regarding its behavior. Those two pieces were taken out.
All right, thank you.
Yes, as a matter of fact, as we were going through the drafting process, I referred to those as the Wagner changes. So, because as I recall, those were some of the issues that that were sticking points for you last year. Wanted to, okay, I didn't want to say it out loud, but I kind of think you might have had a point after I reviewed it a little. Anyway, we took it out. All right, Representative Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my question is, this bill would authorize the Attorney General to refer something to the federal authorities if there was someone not in compliance, if there's a hospital not in compliance. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Hey, is there anything that prohibits them from doing that now?
The fact that the Attorney General currently is not granted the enforcement powers of that act currently.
Okay. Yes, but they wouldn't really be enforcing it. They'd just be, if someone contacts them and say, hey, I've got this problem with the hospital, they could just, you know, give them a number or whatever to get in touch with the federal authorities. Could they do that now?
I would assume so, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, further questions for the reviser? All right. Eileen, that's it for the day. Go lay down.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, this time I mean it. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. All right, I have no proponents listed. I've already basically stated the proponent position, my reason for drafting the bill, and that was, and to your question, Representative Collins, this is federal law. This is, we're not reinventing anything, and probably 99% of hospitals are already following it. All right, everything is really not going, this is not a huge problem that we're solving. We're looking for the 1%. The issue with the federal law, and things may change with this administration. I might be completely off base, but this legislation was passed on a federal level, and it spent years not being enforced. So, while there may very well be implementation, and I fully believe that there is broad implementation, without the enforcement arm, we don't know that. And so, I wanted to make it state law so that we could not assess fines, because that could be, if a new administration decided to enforce the legislation, it could be duplicative. And that was the issue that arose last year. That wasn't the intent even then. It was just somebody enforce it. So instead, if we're referring it to KDHE, or not KDA, sorry, referring it to the federal, what is it, Health and Environment? Yeah. Then they can do the enforcing. All we're doing is the investigative work on a state level. So that's the only change from last year's. We're not assessing the penalties. We're just referring it to the feds. Yes, Representative Neighbor.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I think the question here is, if the feds have not enforced it before, and we report maybe a case, what's in there to say they're going to enforce it now? They're not, if they use the same standards.
Valid if they are choosing not to enforce it because they don't agree with the legislation, you're exactly correct. If they're not enforcing it because they don't have the investigative prowess or manpower to search through every state, every hospital in each state, then I would say that we're making headway
How? If, I mean,
by doing their homework for them.
well, but we're not doing their homework for them because we have, it is federal law as it is. We don't need, in my opinion, to create another set of rules, which are federal rules, to find something that our hospitals are already doing, and is this going to cause more paperwork, more work for hospitals, even if they're doing it, because we don't know the kind of paperwork and stuff that's involved. I just think this creates something that there is not a problem for. Thank you.
All right. Further questions for the loan proponent? Yes, Representative Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just came out of a hearing over in health where the Inspector General presented to us, and I was wondering, it sounds like he's investigating things like this already for Medicaid. This would include hospitals now too. Would this fall under his office, or would it be the Attorney General explicitly? Because I know they're kind of linked. But if it falls under his, well, either way, how many FTEs?
I don't anticipate any FTEs due to the fact that they already have an investigative unit in the Attorney General's office. I don't see this as a widespread problem. I don't anticipate any FTEs at all. Now, does it fall directly under the Medicaid Inspector General? I don't think so. I think it would fall under the Attorney General. However, the MIG is below the Attorney General, so it could be deferred, I guess, but I don't think that would be that wouldn't be the automatic assumption on my part.
I ask because the bill we were talking about today would expand, there's some feedback, I don't know where it's coming from, would expand
Same thing happens to me in karaoke all the time.
it would expand the Inspector General's scope so that it would include like even the state employee health plan in order to investigate fraud and waste and things of that nature. And with that, they are requesting additional FTEs. And so my understanding with what's going on over there and then here, that it may actually need to be increased. So that I don't know if that might be something you want to look into or ask them about specifically, but I think that's something we should consider when evaluating this.
Valid question, and I would even go further and say that if that bill passes and the MIG gets additional staffing, that this would almost guaranteed to be thrown into his lap. But that wouldn't be an automatic in any way. If we're drawing clean lines, which very rarely works out in state government, it would go straight to the Attorney General, not the Medicaid Inspector General.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Yes,
Hi,
Eileen.
I haven't gone to lay down yet, but I wanted to add that the Medicaid Inspector General functions as an entity within the Attorney General's office. There's no overlap there. And he has a very limited grant of authority to investigate fraud within the Medicaid system. He's tried for a couple of years to grab some more land and increase his authority, but that hasn't happened yet. This would not technically fall under his purview because this pertains to hospitals and the specific act, and the bill doesn't grant the MIG the authority to review conditions of the hospital and for compliance with the act. And I just wanted to point that out for you.
Right. Representative Meyer.
Thank you so much, Eileen. I'm sorry you aren't resting fully right now, but I get it. I guess my concern is just in relation to the bill that I just heard in health, which is obviously not being worked just yet, but I anticipate will be. And under that bill, he would be able to investigate fraud and things of that nature from healthcare providers. And so that was kind of where my concern was, knowing that you probably haven't seen the bill and we haven't worked it yet. Maybe I should leave it alone, but my committees are starting to blend together a little bit with their content. So that was where my concern was coming from. Thank you.
All right, Representative Haskins. I even said it right that time.
You did. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your testimony. But I do need a point of clarification, and since she's not following chair order, she might want to jump in. I thought I heard in section 3 that in the reviser's summary that the Attorney General would be monitoring, not have the authority, and that they would be monitoring and not necessarily enforcing, and then informing the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services for enforcement purposes. So, but the language states authority to enforce, and so I just need a point of clarification on that.
Eileen, you want to take that one, or do you want, or should I kind of duff my way through it?
I can take a stab at it. When we say that the Attorney General has the authority to enforce, the enforcement pertains to him investigating any potential issues and then referring those issues to the U.S. Department of HHS. The other thing that he has the authority to do is send out a letter prior to July 1 of this year to let hospitals know that they're required to be in compliance with this act and essentially put them on notice.
So with that, that they're investigating and notifying, but there's no state ramifications for violation. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Yes.
Yay.
Thank you. Go to bed.
Was that your sticking point last year too? Okay, you've slept since then. Yeah, that was it. That was the one. That was the one thing. All right. Any further questions, committee, for the lone proponent? Yes, Representative Miller.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. A lot of my question was answered with the previous representative question. My concern was with, the very first sentence of the Attorney General shall have the authority to enforce the provisions of this act. And in here, it does talk about pretty specifically what kind of action will be brought to the hospital if such things are not met. But it's now my understanding that the Attorney General will not enforce or bring litigation or bring a civil suit or whatever, but it empowers him to encourage them to bring their own civil suit. I'm still having kind of a little bit of trouble understanding that part of it.
All right, Eileen, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I know the answer to this one. The civil suit would be, the patient would bring that. The Attorney General would have nothing to do with that part. All the Attorney General is doing is referring the case to HHS. And now, if HHS has a finding of fault, then I'm sure there's some attorney sitting around going, yeah, I think this is a great time to file a civil suit on behalf of the patient. But that's not the AG, and that wouldn't be the state getting involved in that part of it at all.
That does answer my question. Thank you. I had one more quick one for you.
One second, though.
Sure.
Eileen, if I'm wrong, let me know.
No, Mr. Chair, you explained that well. The process is really bifurcated between criminal and civil. Civil would be brought by the patient guarantor, or a third party payer. The AG would refer any, issues of noncompliance to the Department of HHS for any criminal enforcement that would be necessary.
Very good. All right.
That does answer it. Thank you.
Excellent. Did you have a second one?
Did have one more
fire
smaller
away.
question. So in section B, line 37 of page 2, it says the court shall provide a copy of the order issued pursuant to subsection. I just wanted to make sure that this wasn't in any way adding any additional reporting for the hospitals. It's reporting they're already doing, and it doesn't require them to also send a copy to the AG's office or anything like that.
Not at all, not at all. That report, if I'm remembering the section of the bill correctly, it was the report from HHS
If,
of a finding.
yes, okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right. Further questions for me? I mean, the lone proponent. All right, seeing none. We have any proponents hiding in the woods? Seeing none, I'll close proponent testimony, open neutral testimony. Anyone feeling strongly neutral? Seeing none? All right, close neutral testimony. Opponent testimony, I have 2 listed, 1 live, 1 on WebEx. In person, I have Bill Lane of Stormont Vale. Welcome to committee.
All right, good afternoon. I am Chairman Sutton and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Bill Lane, and I serve as the System Director of the Revenue Cycle at Stormont Vale Hospital. Our health systems provides care to communities across Northeast Kansas, including our rural hospital in the Flint Hills and Junction City, which is a critical resource for families in the region. I am here today to express our strong opposition to HB 2246. While we fully support transparency in healthcare pricing, this bill is unnecessary, duplicative of existing federal regulations, and ultimately harmful, especially for rural hospitals. Health hospitals across Kansas, including Stormont Vale, are already complying with extensive federal price transparency laws. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, colloquially referred to as CMS, has enforced these rules since 2021. Requiring us to post pricing information online and provide patients with detailed cost estimates upon request. We take this responsibility seriously. In fact, our patients regularly receive estimates before scheduled procedures, and our financial counselors work one-on-one with them to ensure and they understand their costs. HB 2246 does not improve upon these efforts. Instead, it imposes additional government bureaucracy, punishes hospitals for technical compliance issues, and exposes us to lawsuits without applying similar oversight to insurance companies, which play a major role in determining what patients actually pay. The financial penalties outlined in this bill could be devastating, particularly for a rural hospital that lack the resources of larger systems. For hospitals like ours in the Flint Hills, this isn't about regulations. It is about survival. Many rural hospitals operate on extremely thin margins, and every additional administrative burden takes time and resources away from patient care. A single lawsuit under this bill could destabilize a hospital, leaving communities with even fewer healthcare options. I urge you to reject HB 2246. Kansas Hospital, like ours, are already meeting transparency requirements, and adding more red tape will only make it harder for us to focus on what matters most, caring for our patients. Thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to stand for questions at the appropriate time.
All right. Committee questions? I see none. All right. Representative Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Mason, for coming. So were you here last year when the prior bill had come that was on this same basic subject?
I was not in the room. Stacy Mason is my chief financial officer. I'm Bill Lane.
Okay.
I'm the system director of the revenue cycle, but I was not in the room when this was brought up. But I believe we responded.
Okay. So, I do, my memory is that you did. So do you not see this bill as being better than what was last year, or you just, I don't know. Do you not see the differential that has been explained earlier, or how do you interpret that?
I see it as being very duplicative of a federal regulation that's already in existence and that hospitals are complying with. I've heard comment that there is no enforcement of it. I will say from our hospital, we've had 2 calls from CMS, from their department, which I think is Price Transparency Department, regarding technical issues with their files that we post out onto our website.
Okay. All right. No, that's helpful. Thank you.
All right. Representative Tarwater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm kind of confused. If it's duplicative and you're already doing it, why does it matter that, why is it going to cost you so much money to do it?
Well, it would put us to an enforcement level as it's written, and I know you've already talked about it, to having the Attorney General enforce something that CMS is already enforcing. And it also opens up to more lawsuits that patients could ultimately file for issues that they may see outside of what the federal regulations already enact.
So the patient could sue you for not being transparent?
Patient could sue us for many things. Question is, if it's already out there as a rule under federal regulations, does it need to be out there for the state?
So how does the federal rule apply? I mean, can they sue you? Can a patient sue you under the federal regulation?
I think they could sue us, certainly, under the federal regulation. I think they could sue us under those guidelines just as easily. I mean, they can complain to the federal government, CMS, for a hospital not complying with it, and there are stiff penalties from the federal government for a hospital to be found not in compliance.
Okay, so again, if they can sue you there and they can sue you here, isn't that kind of same thing? Okay, thanks.
All right, well, that kind of begged the question that came to my mind. Is it already in compliance? Is everyone already in compliance, or is it expensive? I don't think it can be both simultaneously.
Well, I can't speak to everyone being in compliance. I can speak to our health system being in compliance, and we're two.
And I thank you for it.
The expense of it is multifaceted. It's providing estimates. It's providing, the shoppable list, the 300 that's mentioned in it. It's completing the charge master file and payer information that has to be put out there annually.
It's already federal law.
It's already federal law.
Gotcha. Committee, further questions? All right, seeing none. Thanks for being here. And I lied, by the way. I wasn't reading this correctly. I have 3 in-persons and 1 WebEx because Shannon Flack of Healthcare Finance and Reimbursement is also here. Welcome to committee, Shannon.
Chairman Sutton and members of the committee. My name is Shannon Flock. I work for the Kansas Hospital Association. I'm the Vice President of Healthcare Finance and Reimbursement. Spent many years within our hospitals here in Kansas, especially our rural hospitals. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak about House Bill 2246 on behalf of our 121 community hospitals. We recognize that price transparency is important. So our opposition, I want to make sure you understand, does not mean that we are opposed to price transparency. And please don't construe it as that. 1 year ago, KHA stood in front of you and talked about House Bill 2585, also related to price transparency. We listened to you very closely. We heard your comments, shared with the committee meeting, and have spent the past year working very closely with our hospitals, training, education, tracking, and auditing ourselves the hospital's progress in price transparency. I want to give you a little list of some of the things we've done in the past year. Included meaningful discussions about price transparency compliance in 2 statewide conferences. Held 5 price transparency educational webinars, including a 4-part series on the details of price transparency. We tracked CMS action letters, which have come to our hospitals, so they are auditing our hospitals. We tracked those letters. We followed up with the hospitals about how they were going to come into compliance and help them through making them compliant. CMS was very, very helpful in that process with those hospitals. We internally spot checked ourselves, price transparency, on their websites. We held price transparency roundtables at conferences to talk about the issues our hospitals were having, why they were concerned about it, and address those. And lastly, we collaborated with the Healthcare Finance and Management Association, which comprised of healthcare and hospital finance leaders, on price transparency seminars. Our hospitals have made tremendous progress in streamlining, enhancing, and creating better and more accurate ways to provide price estimates. While hospitals play a role in the complexity of healthcare costs, you can't deny there's other players. There's insurance payers. There's pharmaceutical companies. There's other healthcare organizations. There's employers. They all play a part in price transparency as well. As has already been mentioned, this is already duplicating federal requirements that our CMS government is already auditing. Rather than focusing on punitive regulations that impact one of those players, we would recommend the legislators convene a focus group that includes all of the players in price transparency and make costs more transparent and meaningful for the consumer and the patient. Each of your committee members received an example of price transparency in your own towns. That is on your tables. We believe the Kansas hospitals are going above and beyond the intent of the federal law. So you can see in each of those little examples how you would pull up price transparency for your hospitals that are closest to you and what their price transparency looks like. We believe that Kansas hospitals are going above and beyond the intent of the federal law. We recently polled our hospitals to ask them, have you been receiving a lot of complaints about price transparency? And to their recollection, no, they have not. They've received a few, and those mentioned cases was the fact that the patient wanted to know more about their copayment and their deductible cost, not the hospital cost. And that's not the information, unfortunately, we can give the patient. We can work collaboratively, like we said, with the insurance payers, but we need to come together to make sure we know how to do that. We encourage you, if you are receiving complaints from your constituents on price transparency, please let your hospital know. You can't fix something you don't know about. And our hospitals have not heard these complaints. I want to make it clear, last year in House Bill 2585, the fiscal note had a budget increase of $340,000. This bill, the budget bill, has just dropped for this one and is in excess of a $235,000 increase to the budget. I just thought I'd let you know that. In the past year, I want to give you one example of how this bill would also impact. In the past year, our hospitals across the country experienced a severe catastrophic cybersecurity breach. You probably all heard of that with Change Healthcare. When that happened, that crashed some of our hospital websites, which means their price transparency was not on the websites until Change Healthcare got it fixed. Change Healthcare is a healthcare payer. So this bill will make us refund those payers for an incident they were at fault for. How is that fair to our hospitals? As mentioned above, Kansas hospitals recognize the importance of and care committed to price transparency. Good faith estimates are routinely being provided on a daily basis. Hospitals have gone above and beyond. Some of the stories I've heard as we have spent a year reaching out to our hospitals is, it's been great to have that education time with our patients to help them understand their price estimates. It's been great to have those communications. We weren't having those before. We have seen a great increase in how price transparency has been lifted over the past 3 years that CMS has put this law in. I am just astounded by the IT technology that has went into price transparency. And that will continue. We will continue to see that every year. And so we respectfully request that the Kansas Legislature allow the private industry the opportunity to meet transparency needs and not force another government mandate that duplicates an already existing rule that is doing their job. I will stand for questions whenever time allows.
Right. Representative Neighbor. My neighbor to the right.
All right. Thank you, and thank you for bringing that information to us today. I think I heard at the beginning of this meeting that we were not following, we, the government, were not following up on hearing about transparency issues, that our department wasn't doing anything about it, and this would make the federal government do their job. You have told us just the opposite, that there are hospitals that have received help, warning letters and help. So obviously our government is working already without this. Would you agree with that?
I 100% agree.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So right now, from your testimony, you are telling us that the hospitals already provide a list of the top 300 procedures. Is that federal law?
Yes, the federal law says that you have to have 300 of the top shoppable list. That can be different for every hospital. So they have to go through every year and pick out which 300 services were used the most within their hospital. So there's a little bit of difference between each hospital, but for the most part, you know, it's going to include the majority of the same.
Okay, so I did a little test. I looked up a hospital close to where I live, and super excited because I think most consumers don't know that this is available. So when you inquire or when you share back that customers aren't asking for it, it's because they don't know that. They're most concerned with their deductible. They're most concerned with what they're going to have to pay for. They don't understand the connects because there is a middle person. So I go to the one that is closest to my home, super excited, and I find that they have a huge list, but only 42 have prices on them.
In what hospital?
I am not going to say that
Okay.
on,
So,
but
the one I know that is closest to you is actually not a hospital that falls under regulations. I am assuming, because they are not a community general hospital. So specialty hospitals do not have to follow price transparency.
Okay, so with that in mind, would this bill include those community hospitals? Do you know, or should I refer it back to the?
I will say that, and to add to that, is most special hospitals that we, again, you know, we have mainly community hospitals, but most specialty hospitals have at least an Excel spreadsheet out there.
So, Mr. Chairman, the hospital that I'm referencing that I don't want to say out loud they're a very large hospital and they serve a large number of people. So would they be included in this?
I'm afraid I'm going to have to punt on that one and then get back to you. I don't know the answer.
Because
I'm going to probably have to find out a little bit more specific information. We can do that offline.
Okay, sure. I guess my thinking on this is that we do need consumers to start shopping and looking at their options.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad that you agree with that. So the more our consumers have access to this information would benefit all of, and I guess I'm very surprised that they are not giving it. And MRI is not even on this list. Thank you.
Right. Committee, further questions? Yes. Oh, my heavens, we have a list. Representative Haskins, and I think Wagner had his hand up too.
That was out loud, I'm just saying. Exhausted sigh. Thank you for your testimony. I appreciate your comments. And I'm just trying to play catch up on this here a little bit. But the federal law that was changed in, looks like in 2021, and the new for transparency, and the new pricing went in 2022 under the previous administration.
Correct.
And since then, you've stated that your members have seen an increase in their involvement, the federal government's involvement in abiding by this law, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, the concern that was posed by the chair was under that administration, things were working, not sure about this next administration. In your experience over the hospital, does this vary based upon who's ever in charge of the federal government?
No.
Okay, thank you.
It does not.
Right, Representative Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The question I have, again, I'm going a little bit on just memory from a year ago, but Section 4, where it outlines how a patient, if they believe that a hospital is not in material compliance, can basically file a civil action against the hospital. Is that currently allowed under federal law, or does the federal, CMS or whoever enforces this, is it a regulatory enforcement, or is it actually in court enforcement?
It is not in a court enforcement. It is a regulatory enforcement. So there is a financial penalty. Now, like I said, CMS has been really great about working with our hospitals. When they get that first warning letter, they make it pretty clear, we're giving you 30 days. You better figure out how to do this, or if you don't figure it out, here's your penalty, your financial penalty. So it is being sent to them for regulatory. There is no civil court to it.
Go ahead.
So that is something, I would think that's part of the rub. That's a real difference between the federal and the state, is that the federal provides enforcement through the regulatory agency, while this actually gets the courts involved. I mean, is that, I didn't see you really specify that in your testimony, so I'm just want to make sure I'm understanding that correctly.
Yeah, I mean, that was my understanding. What's her name? Eileen, I apologize, mentioned at the beginning is, yes, it does a little bit of both. It uses that word authority to our Attorney General to enforce or to bring it up to HHS about the enforcement that way, but it also puts a civil penalty in there, which is kind of the example I gave you as far as sometimes it's not our fault the price transparency is not on the website. We have a cyber attack, especially one by Change Healthcare, who is an insurance payer, but the civil penalty will pay back the payer for something that they have, enacted through that. So yes, both of that, it definitely is a concern.
Right, Representative Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You mentioned that the federal doesn't pertain to specialty hospitals. What about like outpatient facilities where you go get tested, you don't spend the night there, you go straight home?
So the good faith estimate is required in healthcare. The good faith estimate is a little bit different price transparency, but it's really an overlap. Good faith estimates are required whether you go to a clinic or any kind of healthcare. What the good faith estimate is for you as the patient, which is really how it should be, needs to reach out to the hospital and say, hey, I'm due for my elective surgery. I need to get an MRI. I need to get this. And every healthcare industry, even the clinics, must give you an estimate of what that is going to cost. Price transparency is only a website issue where you have to have 300 shoppable services on your website. That is only for hospitals. The clinics and outpatient do not have to have that on their website.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Representative Williams.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I did look up another hospital that is close to mine, and it is a legit, these are hospitals. It had error message after error message.
Yep, that's Susan B. Allen, who, again, another issue. Susan B. Allen is changing over a new electronic medical record system. The electronic medical record system is what the price transparency software is on, and they have been in touch with us. They've actually worked with CMS and have told them we are changing over our EMR system, and so we are not able to have our price transparency files out there. So that is what's going on with Susan B. Allen.
Well, again, I won't belabor this, but I searched another one that's a large one as well, and it's having errors too.
Interesting. All right, Representative Haskins, then.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for allowing the next second question. I just wanted to, I forgot to ask, you mentioned in your comment, I wrote it down here, that there was a fiscal note last year from the Attorney General's that stated $345,000, and then you said that I thought you said, but the new number has come out, and I wrote out $235,000. Has there been a fiscal note yet on this bill? I'm just curious, Mr. Chair.
I hadn't received a fiscal note yet. I'll be looking for it. You do have it?
The fiscal note on House Bill 2246 has been published.
It's been published. All right, thank you very much. That's just needed that.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't feel so bad about not having it. Okay. Holy cow. All right, Representative Penn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Madam, for being here today. How are you?
Thank you. I am good.
All right. I heard you say that you all get cyber attacks, and that's one of the reasons that some of the information isn't out there. Do you have any reports on how often you receive those attacks? Is that a part of public record, or is that something you hold internally? Is it quite frequent?
Well, you know, I mean, most of the time, I mean, our hospitals make it pretty. The Change Healthcare was nationwide cyber attack that affected the whole entire country. Cyber attacks, I'm not for sure if we publish it anywhere. Most of the time, our hospitals are pretty transparent about letting you know. I mean, I could tell you that I have been involved in about 3 in the past year. Unfortunately, they're becoming more and more known, which is a huge unfortunate situation.
Thank you so much.
All right, further questions, committee? All right, seeing none. Thank you very much for being here. All right, I also have Stacy Mason, also with Stormont Vale. No, not Stacy. Stacy Mason doesn't want to speak. Is it written only? She had written testimony. Okay, move that one to written only, folks. All right, then we have our last contestant, and that live contestant, we have a number of written onlys. We have on WebEx, we have Weston Tallman of Rice Community Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate you allowing me to join via WebEx. I'm not as sick as Eileen is, but I'm definitely feeling very under the weather, so forgive me if I have to pause for a drink or two here.
No problem. We're making exceptions today because of Eileen.
Thank you. So just briefly, I value everyone's time, and I appreciate the ability to speak this afternoon on House Bill 2246. I don't want to waste everyone's time in rehashing what's already been talked about, so I'll try to keep my testimony to a minimum. I will say that the price transparency as it stands at federal level is very difficult to comply with from a critical access standpoint. Rice Community Health is a critical access hospital. We operate on a very, very tight budget. Price transparency as it stands now costs our health system over $10,000 a year to comply with. So when you're out here in rural Kansas, $10,000 in your health system is a big chunk of change. So I do speak, I think, on behalf of many critical access hospitals throughout the state that it is a very costly compliance issue as it stands today. So with House Bill 2246, talking about the civil damages for being in noncompliance, we're only adding to that. We're adding to the financial detriment that this could cause critical access hospitals. And it's been stated already that one civil case could do a hospital in. And I'm not going to tell you all something you don't know, but there are a lot of critical access hospitals at risk of closure, due to things outside of price transparency. Adding another measure of compliance to us, to our processes. Yes, we already do comply with federal laws, the federal price transparency laws. And to say that the federal government is not doing their job is an incorrect statement. I am one of the hospitals that received a compliance letter from CMS. I was given 90 days to respond with the corrective written plan to correct the deficiencies that we apparently had. It all tied to our website coding. Once again, we had to go in and fix our website, adding additional costs to the price transparency compliance. I'm not going to say that the issues that have been found by a representative there are not due to website issues. We don't host our website. We have to go outside. We don't have the budget to hire a website developer to be on staff. I mean, it's not possible for critical access hospitals to employ their own website developers. So we have to go outside for that resource. It's just adding the costs of price transparency just continue to add up. And now that we're talking about the civil component of this, it could really hinder the ability to operate. In addition to that, currently, and I can second this, our consumers don't do a good job. They don't know about the price transparency as it stands. We have very minimal visitors to our price transparency website. Mostly it is other health systems who have more funds than critical access hospitals do to shop our entire list, our entire price list, and they go back and they use that to their advantage against us. So that's just another reason why the price transparency as it stands at the federal level is plenty of oversight as it pertains to all the hospitals in Kansas. I definitely think that House Bill 2246, it duplicates the federal side. It allows for the criminal or the civil damages that could come to the hospitals for noncompliance. And with that, I would stand for any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Committee. Oh, okay, actually, first off, the question that comes to my mind, we keep talking about increased costs, but this is already federal law. You're already in compliance. Where's the increased cost?
Sure, it's allowing the civil penalties to come.
That's not new. That exists right now.
I mean, it comes in the form of fines from CMS. CMS, they work with hospitals who are having issues with their price transparency. It took us roughly 120 days to get resolution on the issue that they identified. So they do work with you before they fine you. So that's my understanding. And if I'm not understanding the bill, then that's on me. But it's my understanding that the way the bill is written, it will allow consumers to file with the Attorney General that the hospitals would face civil penalties, which are outside of the penalties currently being enforced by CMS.
All right, I might recommend a review on that one. Committee, further questions? Seeing none? All right, thank you for being here, well, in spirit.
Thank you.
Committee, you'll also find written-only testimony from Bruce Witt, Nicole Milo, Steve Kearney, and Ruth Dooling. So read those at your convenience. perhaps while we're roasting marshmallows during a snowstorm. Apparently, I keep getting texts that that is a real thing that you guys were talking about. I'm still in absolute objection to it. It's getting in the way of my schedule. So I'm going to have to make an amendment to that newscast.
There's a lot of them.
All right. All right. Are there any other opponents to whichever bill we were just hearing, 2246? All right. Fire away.
I just wanted to say that I am welcome, I'd be more than happy to sit down with any of you and help you walk through how to get to their price estimator tools. But yes, they came up fine for me. So, and also a follow-up with increased litigation is an expense to hospitals, and that is a possible thing that can happen with this.
For noncompliance, yes. Representative Williams.
Well, interestingly, I never said Wesley. So I don't know where that came from. However, we did look at that one, and neither one of us could pull them up on our state laptops. It came up some JavaScript that was impossible to pull up, and we tried multiple ones. No, the thing is that honestly, if we struggle to pull it up, then our constituents will struggle to pull it up. It has to be readily accessible. That's what transparency is.
All right. With that, I will then close opponent testimony, close the hearing on HB 2246. And committee, put on snow tires, put on chains. We're going to, snow shoes, snow skis, snow dogs. I don't care. We're coming to work on Wednesday. That's at least my hope. So until that time, and I'm not canceling the meeting yet until it's snowing, we are adjourned.